Over corn pops the next morning, Dad tells me that Rosalie's passing was peaceful, and that even on her last day, she was giving him HELL, telling him that someone needs to get that woman in the next bed over watermelon jello, because she hates the lime. She was the real deal, I say. Dad reaches out and pats my hand with his hero hand. Just like you. I want that to be true. Oliver's bike is already in the rack when I get to school the next morning. I park mine next to his and head in through the double doors. He's not in the lobby or at his locker or in Ms. Levitt's room. I check the cafeteria too, and I don't know why I'm spending all this time looking, because I know exactly where he is. Maybe I'm just not sure what I'll say yet. I take a deep breath and open the gym door. Oliver is going up for a shot, and I startle him and he misses. And when he grabs the rebound, he slams the ball hard. "What are you doing here?" he says. "I was looking for you, because we found scat in the woods during nature club." "What?" he says. "What's scat?" "Little roly pebbles of animal poop." He laughs a little, but it feels fake. And he starts to tell me how he really just wants to get some court time in before Principal Tacker comes and makes him leave. And I'm wondering why he has to practice so much, since he always wins 3-on-3 at recess, no matter who his teammates are. He could probably even win if I were on his team. He turns to take another shot, and I take a deep breath and think of Rosalie and how she wouldn't be afraid to talk to her own best friend, even if it was about something hard. "I went to your house yesterday," I say. The ball sails through the air, bounces off the rim, and rolls away from the court. "Sorry," I say. And I'm not even sure if I'm saying sorry about the shot, or for hiding in his bushes, or the fact that there's a "for sale" sign sticking out of his yard. The bell rings and he says, "Let's go." Then he picks up his book bag and walks after his basketball and out the gym door. I keep right up with him and say, "I was riding over to tell you about the scat, but then, well, I thought my mom would get worried because I was late to meet her at the bookstore. I was going to say something, but I had to go. But I feel like such a wuss." Then he stops and looks right at me and pulls on the straps of his book bag. "Yeah," he says. "We're moving." I have 100 questions, like why? And where? And are you sure? And will we still have our backpacking trip? But all that comes out is, "Oh." And my heart feels like it drops into my guts, and my eyes are burning. We're both watching our shoes as we walk. "It's been kind of hard for my mom," he says. "You know, since..." I nod. "Since his dad left." "Layla's in college, and that costs a lot, and Shauna and Rebecca are already talking about going too," he says. Then he bounces the ball hard, even though we're not allowed to bounce balls in the hallways. "My mom said it was time to sell the house." "Oh," I say. "But we're trying to find a place to stay in town, just a smaller place." "Oh," I say. "It's no big deal," he says, and stops for a drink at the water fountain. I'm thinking about that whole office room at Knox and Kobe's house, how Oliver wanted to carry it away, make it a home. I'm thinking about the big numbers in math class, down payments and 20%, and all that interest that was too confusing for me to calculate, so I left those problems blank. And I'm thinking about the stairs down to Oliver's basement, and how we used to fly over them on cardboard sleds when we were little. And I'm thinking it sounds like a big deal. I wait for him to finish his slow drinks, and we walk on to Ms. Levitt's room. And the whole time I'm thinking of 100 things I could have said that would have been better than, "Oh." Reuben is reading Ray's first letter when we get to class. He's smiling and pointing to different parts and giving her a high five. Oliver and I sit at our table, and I'm trying to think of something to make him feel better. So I say, "At least we know another word for poop." And it works. It makes him laugh, and not even a fake one. That's true, he says. But I can tell neither of us really feels any better. Ms. Levitt tells us to take out our notebooks for a moment of meditation and starts the clock. Everyone begins right away. Some kids are using it to work on their projects, which is fine, since Ms. Levitt says there are no rules to moment of meditation. Chaz has that box full of papers on his table again, and a roll of string. He starts cutting the paper and making little piles. I turn to Oliver to see if he wants to look at the sketches I made for the next part of Gabeover, but he's looking at his phone in his lap. "Who's winning?" I whisper. He glances up for a second and says, "What? Are you looking at the scores?" "Oh," he says. "Yeah, Cavaliers won last night. Lakers too." Then he turns off his phone and slides it in his book bag. I see Ray pulling something from her book bag. It's her project from last year. Black and white copies of photographs of her grandma that she transformed with colored pencils and Sharpies into cool, modern-looking self-portraits. I remember her telling Ruben about them before, and I wish I were sitting closer so I could see better. Ruben points to something in one of the portraits, and Ray smiles and nods. I tap my pencil on my notebook and try out another one of those down-the-page poems. I'm thinking about Oliver, and how I want to tell him that I'm sorry, and that I bet it feels scary and terrible, and that I'll always be his best friend. And I want to tell him that I know his mom seems stressed, because I saw her in the office when she said damn to Principal Tacker. So I write, "Sometimes crap attacks your teammate." I'm about to share the poem with Oliver when I hear whispering and laughing. I look back, and Chaz and Saunders are covering their mouths, their shoulders shaking with giggles. I can already feel gobbledygook in my guts, and I don't even know what they're laughing at. Ruben slams his notebook shut and stares back at them. Miss Levitt is making her way to the back of the room when I hear Chaz whisper, "Rabid Ruben. His mom won't even leave him alone with his own brothers." "Seriously? What's your problem?" Ray says. Miss Levitt signals for Chaz and Saunders and Ray to get up. On the way out of the classroom, Chaz mumbles, "Let your boyfriend speak for himself." And Ray gives him a shove, and he stumbles a step, and he deserves it. Then the door closes, and I glance over to Ruben. And he's got a look that reminds me of Miss Levitt's. Who are you look. I nudge Oliver's elbow. "Did you tell them anything?" "They asked me if we saw Ruben there again," Oliver says. "What was I supposed to do? Lie?" He looks at me. "I just said yes, and that he's the twins' brother. It's not a big deal." I don't know what to say, because he's sort of right. We did see Ruben there again. But now everyone thinks he's even weirder than they thought before, and I know in my guts that it is a big deal. And Ruben's looking right at me like I better fix this. And I know I should stand up and tell everyone that Ruben isn't rabid or roaming or rude, that Knox and Kobe love Ruben, that they hugged painted handprints around him, and that Ruben saved our butts by cleaning stains off the wall that we were only making worse. And I try. At least, I think I try. But it gets all caught up in my throat, and my heart beats so loud it drowns out the whole room, and my eyes are blurry, and I think I might puke. So I look away and ignore everyone laughing. And it feels like taking one more tiny step in the wrong direction, and before you know it, your compass arrow is all out of whack, and you've lost your way. I can hear Ms. Levitt's voice outside the classroom and Ray's, but I can't tell what they're saying. Something, at least. Oliver slides our comics out from the folder. "Come on," he says. "Chaz and them are the jerks, not us. We didn't do anything." He nudges my elbow. "Let's work on Gabeover." I nod and keep my head down and look at all the frames for our story from the day we met. How he encouraged me on the teeter-totter, balanced me, made me feel free. And what's a teeter without a totter? Then I reach into my bag for my notebook so I can show Oliver my sketch for the big collision scene. But I find the note from yesterday. Ms. Levitt thinks if I sit with people, I'll make friends. It doesn't work. It might. I smush it into a little ball and stick it back in my bag, way in the bottom. Then I pull out my English folder. Oliver looks at my sketch and says, "This is perfect." He grabs a black-colored pencil to start a final draft, and I'm watching him draw his left side, sewed up to my right. His curly hair and basketball jersey and high-top shoe connected to my straight hair, one glasses lens, and t-shirt. And I'm wondering how you can be so close to someone, stitched up, best friends close, and not know what's in their guts. His face right now looks the same as in that first frame on the teeter-totter. Sad. I pat his non-drawing hand, the one holding the paper steady, and say, "I wish you felt like you could have told me," I whisper, "about moving." "It's no big deal," he says, and keeps drawing. "I'm sure we'll find a place to rent for a while until my mom can make a little more money." The pages for our comic are spread out on the table, and I keep looking back to that first one. "It is a big deal," I say. He blows away some eraser dust from the paper and keeps working. "Yeah," he says. "I guess it is." He doesn't look up, but it feels different. It feels like the truth. I slide him my scat poem. "Sometimes crap attacks your teammate." He smiles and his eyes get all teary, but he blinks fast, then reaches over and doodles a pile of poop chasing a stick figure Oliver down the street. "I'm sorry for all your crap," I tell him. "But I'm pretty sure we can get through any scat or guano or dirty diapers together. I mean, we're Gabever and all." He nods, and we continue to work on our comic until Miss Levitt comes back in with Ray and Saunders and Chaz. Chaz goes back to his table and mumbles something to Oren. Then I peek back at him and watch him work. He's still cutting the strips of paper, hole punching and tying strings, fastening them to the roof of his box. For every other project ever, Chaz has written fancy essays that are 3 pages longer than the assignment and proofread by his mom. So it feels weird to see him working on a kid-like diorama made from a shoebox that he doesn't even work on extra at home. I'm finishing up the final colors and speech bubbles for the big collision scene in our comic, while Oliver starts thinking about the next scene. The one where together, as Gabever, we will solve some crime. I look back at Reuben and give him the same wave to see if he'll join us again. Maybe I can explain that we weren't trying to spread any rumors, and that Chaz Gilbertson hasn't shut his mouth since kindergarten, and that I liked when he joined our group last time. But Reuben shakes his head like, no way. I want to push that out of my mind, so I turn back to Oliver. "Can you think of any crimes for Gabever?" He taps his pencil on the table. "Maybe someone stealing all the chocolate milk from the lunchroom?" I shrug. "Or," he says, "maybe Gabever takes back all the cell phones from Miss Tacker's desk and returns them to their rightful owners?" "That one's not bad," I say. Then Ray passes by our table on her way to the pencil sharpener and gives us a good glare. "Way to go opening your big mouths and letting everyone go on thinking what they want to think when you know it's a load of bologna sandwiches," she says. "What happened to leave no trace?" I shift in my seat. "We didn't do anything," Oliver mumbles. "Exactly," Ray says.